Anybody here have questions you'd like to ask?
How did you kick your sugar habit?
Say that again?
How did you kick your sugar habit?
Okay, so yeah, that's a really good question. How did I kick my sugar habit? When I started to eat well, I mean, I knew that eating sugar was really, really bad for me. But when your gut is out of balance, here's the thing about the gut. Not only is sugar, not only are you emotionally addicted to sugar, but the bad bacteria in your body are physically addicted, because the bad bacteria, the opportunistic gut bacteria, feed off sugar and anything that turns into sugar. So anything like white stuff, processed stuff, turns into sugar in the body. Well, that creates actually a physical addiction in the body. So, people use sugar emotionally to numb out, and also because the body itself says, I need sugar, I need sugar. So as I started to eat well, I obviously was healing my gut. I didn't know about that at the time, but I was, because I was eating all organic and, and fermented foods and things like that. So my gut was getting better, but emotionally, I was still addicted. Once I started to practice inner bonding, which, as I said, 35 years ago, I started to practice. It was amazing what happened, because I stopped wanting to avoid my feelings. I stopped wanting to numb them out. And when I stopped wanting to do that, when I felt full inside, the sugar addiction went away. Let me say one other thing that I forgot to say before I answer another question. One of the things that we all learned to avoid is what I call the core painful feelings of life. This is the loneliness, the heartbreak, the helplessness over others, the grief over loss. These are the heartbreak. These are very painful feelings. These are feelings of life. We don't cause these feelings. We cause the anxiety, depression, guilt, shame with the self-abandonment. But we don't cause these feelings of life. Life causes them. People, events cause these feelings. And many of us had these feelings as we were growing up. We couldn't handle them. I'd like you to, I'm going to put you through a very brief process right now before I answer another question. I'd like you to put your hands on your heart. Hands on the heart stimulates oxytocin, which is the feel-good hormone. So as soon as you put your, excuse me, as soon as you put your hands in your heart, you're going to feel a little bit better. I want you to see if you can tune into one of those feelings, whether it's loneliness or helplessness over somebody or heartbreak over something or grief over something. Just see if you can take a minute to tune into that and breathe into it. Move towards it. Move towards the feeling, not away from it, which is what we all learn to do. And just see if you can bring compassion to it. Bring compassion to this feeling. Bring kindness. Breathe into it. Be with it. This is a very simple process for managing the core pain of life. Now, we don't have time to allow the whole process to go, but if you were to do this with any of these core feelings for a period of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe even a half an hour, you're going to find that the feeling is ready to release. And when the feeling is ready to release, you say, I give it to God, and I ask for peace and acceptance, and the feeling moves through. Now, with big feelings like the loss of a loved one, it's going to move through for the moment. It'll come back. You do it again. It'll move through. It'll come back. You do it again. You may have to do it for a year. You may have to do it for 2 years. You may have to do it for a long time. But each time you do it, you will be releasing instead of stuffing the feeling down, because stuffed feelings create illness. You don't want to stuff them down. You want to learn to manage them. As children, we could not manage these feelings. As adults, we absolutely can. Okay.
I'm just wondering, what kind of exercises do you do and how often?
Okay, I am not a gym kind of person. I don't go to the gym. I walk every day, and I have walked up and down hills every day for probably 50 years. I take my dog, but I'm lucky. I live rurally, and so I walk up and down hills, nobody's there, and what I do is I do my inner bonding work out loud. I often encourage people to do it out loud. So I take my walk, and I do some prayer, and I get centered, and then I go in and I say, "How you doing, honey?" out loud, because nobody's there. But you know what? If you're in the middle of New York, just stick your cell phone. Nobody will know that you're talking to yourself. So yeah, so I mean, it's like I have a conversation. How are you doing? You know, am I taking care of you? And if I am, if I'm not, I'm going to do a whole inner bonding process. That starts my day with getting connected. If everything's fine, I go right up to my guidance. And I say, what would you like to tell me? It's open-ended. What would you like to tell me? I keep a tape recorder and I record, because this is where I get a lot of information. I get ideas of what I want to write about. I get all kinds of information if I just make it open-ended. What would you like to tell me? So that's my exercise, because I'm doing inner bonding the whole time I'm walking. It goes really fast. I walk for half an hour every day. That's it. But I also live on a ranch. So I work in my garden. I ride my horse. I mean, I do what the longevity shows, that people who they just do natural things. They just walk a lot and they do natural things. I'm not crazy about like working out. But I'm also a potter, so I pot, and that develops muscles. And so I'm moving a lot, but in really natural ways. Okay.
Hi. How do you share this? Like what I've just learned? Like I like to share when I learn new things and good things. How do you share this without being overwhelming?
Well, one of the things we have on our website is an intro video.
Okay.
It's an hour and 20 minutes. It has a lot of this in it. That's one way of sharing it. But really, I have found that the best way of sharing it is to do it and be a role model for people. Because, the more you do it, the lighter your frequency gets, the brighter your light gets, and people want to know what you're doing. So, but we do have, we have books, we have videos, we have a lot of stuff on our website that will help people share. On the website, we also have a free 7-day course. So if you go on the website, you can get the free 7-day course, which goes into pretty good depth about inner bonding. Okay.
Hi, can you give an example of what it would look like to work with someone who has the false beliefs or cognitive distortions?
That has what, honey?
False beliefs or cognitive distortions, like then they don't even know it or see it? How might you work with someone like that?
I work with people in the same way. I just help them do the process. And by doing the process, they're going to start to get an understanding of what's really happening within themselves. The thing about the inner bonding process is it rewires the brain. The more you practice the process, the more your brain gets rewired. The more you move from back here up to here. This is what we want to develop in the brain, is our higher functioning. This is where the loving adult is. And so the more people practice the process as best they can, the more they're rewiring their brain. And of course, that's changing everything. I'm not sure if that answered your question. Pardon?
I got what you said.
Okay, good.
Hi, thank you. This really speaks to me a lot. I just wanted to get, when you were talking about putting your hand on your heart, and then you go to the pain, and then you feel the release, and then you said there was a statement that you say after that. What was it?
So when you're feeling the core pain, you're feeling grief, or you're feeling heartbreak, put your hands in your heart, you bring in compassion. Compassion is very powerful. Compassion is an extremely powerful feeling. you have to open to it. We don't generate compassion in our own being. We have to open to it. And this is another reason for being connected to your higher guidance, is you invite compassion in. And so you say, I invite in compassion. And then you just, it's like holding a child who's crying. You hold the child with compassion until you start to feel a release. You know, those of you that have had kids know that a child can come in crying, and you pick up the child and you hold the child and you kiss it and make it better, and you're compassionate, and it doesn't take very long for the feelings to move through and the child is off playing again. This is the same thing. It just may take a little longer with the deeper feelings. And so you're holding them with compassion until you feel that they're ready to release. And then I say, I give it to you, God, and I ask for peace and acceptance. And it's a very simple process, but it's extremely powerful. This is what will help you manage the core pain of life. It's different than the regular inner bonding process, which is about the feelings that we're causing. Then we go through the 6 steps. This is about the pain of life. But even with that, once it's released, I will go to my guidance and say, is there anything else you need to tell me about this? Any other information that I need about this situation? Especially if it's, I mean, if it's like somebody died, there's probably not much information. But if it's like somebody who's been really mean to you, or then there may be more information for you. Once you have dealt with the pain of that, there may be more information for you. Okay, we just have a few more minutes left.
Hi. So as adults, do you have any advice for how we deal with our adult parents? Because especially when they haven't made that transition into realizing that we're adults. So how do we speak to them as adults, caring for ourselves, but being respectful of that relationship?
You know, I had a very difficult relationship with my parents, but what I found was that when I practiced inner bonding and I became a loving adult, I started to see them, I don't know how to put it, but I was older than them. You know, they were younger in their souls. My parents were incapable of compassion. Neither of them were capable of compassion, but I was. And so as I learned to practice inner bonding and stop taking their behavior personally, it was so funny what happened, but I became the parent. And I could go in and hold my mother, who couldn't ever hold me. She absolutely loved it. She'd become like 2 years old because she never got held. And so I just stopped expecting anything from them. I just, stayed tuned in to what was loving to me. I was able to give to them without expecting anything back. Now, it didn't change them. I mean, I couldn't be around them for long periods of time because they were pretty toxic. But at least I was able to take care of myself around them. I don't know if that helps you. Okay. One more minute, one more question.
First of all, I want to say I really enjoyed your program. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I can really relate to being caretaker and dysfunctional family, and you attract where you are at that level.
Right.
Been doing a lot of work, both physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and this really resonates with me. But I wanted to know, since you were saying, hold your heart and stuff like that, have you ever done tapping?
Yes, I do tapping, and I'm glad you mentioned it. I've done tapping for years. Mm-hmm. I studied with a master, mm-hmm. and tapping is a wonderful way of starting to release feelings. If your feelings are getting in the way of you, they're just overwhelming, using the emotional freedom technique is a wonderful thing to learn. I encourage everybody to learn the emotional freedom technique. You can learn it online. I teach it in our Self-Quest program. I teach it when I do intensives often. The other process is the trauma release exercises that you can also learn online that can be very, very helpful for people.
Tapping.
Pardon me?
What is tapping, she's saying?
The trauma, it's TRE, trauma release exercises.
Right.
They're, we're actually out of time, but
Okay.
they're exercises that get your body shaking, because when we have trauma, we're supposed to shake, but most of us didn't. And so if you can look it up, the trauma release exercises, they're very, very helpful.
Can I,
The tapping is, it's called the Emotional Freedom Technique, EFT. Look up the Emotional Freedom Technique, it's free. You're tapping on the end points of the acupuncture meridians, and it's a way of moving feelings through the body so that the brain starts to recognize them as benign. It's a very, very, I've used it for many, many years, very, very powerful technique. Anyway, we are out of time.
thank you so much.
much.
Thank you.